parenting is not about. Now, in this video, I'm going to share my opinions on what parenting is not about, because there has been so much of conversation going on what parenting is about, and most parents assume that this is exactly what my feeling is, so this is exactly what parenting is all about. And of late, it has been started being treated as a science and something like an exact science which anybody can execute and get the same results. In this video, I'm going to share my experiences or my understanding of what it is, and it's just going to be a proposal. I don't want to say that I know everything about parenting and that I've been the best at it, because I'm still exploring my share of parenting. Hello, I'm Ranjan Kumar, founder Mystic Fusion International and authentic self-leadership coach at Mystic Fusion International. Now, for a long time, I have been, listening to people speaking about what's their idea about parenting and what is right, right way to raise kids, and what way you can actually, give the best of you as a parent. And transmute them into the kind of kids that you exactly want them to grow as. And this video is dedicated to all those parents who have taken time to explore what real parenting is all about. The first thing first, parenting is not knowledge, and parenting is wisdom. Now, parenting, when I say parenting is not knowledge, I want you to understand that it's not something that you learn a book and you become a good parent. It's about your exposure and your wisdom that naturally comes out of you by not the standards of what the world expects and what the society expects and what the education system expects from your kid. It's more about what the child wants to grow into as, and what the universe actually wants to express itself through the child. So I would want to share a few thoughts on what parenting is not about. First thing, parenting is not about expecting. And this is what I hear. I expect my kid to be like this. I expect my kid to grow into this. I expect my kid to be seen like this. I expect my kid to be perceived like this. I expect my kid to have these traits. I expect my kid to be treated like this. Now, first things what I understood is parenting is not about expecting. Parenting is about expression. Now, this child which you are talking about as my child is actually that unit life which has manifested through you, but doesn't mean that you possess all the rights to treat the kid the way you want them to, and make the kid grow as you want them to. Well, that will be so selfish point of view of manipulating the child into something that you see as the perfect model of life. And how do you see that perfect model of life? Because of what you have experienced in life, and you want your child to respond to the world the way you could not at some point of time, or the way you are able to do that at this point of time. And hence, your perception of life is what is asking you to expect something out of child. Now, how old is your child, and why is this haste in actually expecting so much from this child who knows what to become? If at all you give some space for the child to allow some space for the child to become what they really want to become. So my first opinion is parenting is not about expecting, because if you start expecting, you are actually subtly conveying to the child that I am dissatisfied, I am not happy, I want you to be like this, my love is conditional, I don't want you to be like this, I don't want you to stand like this, I don't want you to sit like this, I don't want you to behave like this. Now, if 90% of the time you spend only telling the child what you are expecting and not focusing on what the child is expecting, then probably you are actually imposing a lot on the child. And second thing, parenting is not about imposing. Parenting is all about patience. Because parenting, if you start treating like imposing, then what you're doing is you're dumping your experience, you're dumping your knowledge, you're dumping your perception of what life is onto the child, actually subtly transferring your fears and your insecurities, and saying that if you don't do this, if you don't learn this, you won't be treated well by the world. And you are imposing your fears, your insecurities, instead of having patience and listening to the child, about listening to the real fears and real insecurities of the child. You want the child to be very brave, but you are actually telling them that I am afraid of the world, I am scared of life, I am scared of people, I'm trying to be very bold so that the world, I can face the world. But in doing that, you are actually telling them that the world is not the right place for you, and the world is full of people who can hurt you. The world is not the full world is life is full of situations which will challenge you. Of course challenges will come. That doesn't mean that you raise the children imposing your fears and insecurities into their mindset. Parenting is not about leading. Parenting is about being with the child. Most parents think that we need to lead the child to become something, and hence they can never travel with the child. They are always 2 steps or 3 steps ahead of the child, saying that look at me and behave like me. Well, how many years did you take to behave like this? My question is very simple. How many experiences, how many incidents, how many situations did you have to go through to become who you are today? And you want your child to become to express the wisdom and experience and knowledge and everything that you are expressing at just that age where they are? Probably this is too much of expectation from the child, and probably this is so much of impatience that you are actually not allowing that seed to grow. You're not allowing enough of that nutrition of life force and life energy for the child to breathe in. You're actually telling them, I'm dissatisfied with you, and unless you are telling them that my love is conditional. If you don't do this way, probably I'm not going to love you, or my love is complete only when you behave like this. I'll be good to you only when you do this. Now this is actually a lot of imposing on the child about what you are expecting from the child, and this is not walking by the side of the child. You're actually walking ahead of the child. Hence, parenting is not about leading, it's about going along with the child. Parenting is not about making them listen, because this is exactly, no, if you don't listen to me, I'll not do this. If you don't listen to me, I'll not talk to you. If you don't listen to me, I'll do this. Now, how many times a day you listen to me? Now, probably you need to understand, parenting is not about making them listen to you. Parenting is all about you listening to them, because that unit of self, you're fortunate enough that you have this baby, and your baby wants you to listen to the baby and not to tell them what they want to listen to you. Of course, the kids are the best of listeners. They listen to you even when you're not talking. They listen to you all the while. They listen to you not just through their ears, they listen to you through their own being. And the reality is that your kid knows you better than you know yourself. And please do not underestimate your kids as a naive being which needs your regimentation, which needs your discipline to make them listen to you. So the question is, are you listening to your kids, or are you still operating from a mindset where your kid needs to listen to you? Parenting is not about making them listen to you. Parenting is all about you listening to your child. Parenting is not about you creating space for them to grow. Parenting is all about you being the space for them to explore. A parent is the child's universe. As long as you say, I'm busy, you take care of yourself, I'm busy, you take care of yourself, I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, you don't disturb me, and you assume that you are creating a lot of space for them to grow, then probably you need to understand, you are the space for the child. You are that universe. You are that world that the child is looking up to. Your child is looking your child is not just observing you as an individual. Your child is actually looking at you like you are the world of the child, and everything that you say is only 10% of what you do. And your child is not just looking at or listening to what you speak. Your child is actually looking at what you're doing. And as long as you think that I've given you this, I've given you that, I've created this for you, I've created that opportunity for you, this is for the child to explore when they grow up. But as long as they develop their own consciousness, then probably you need to understand that you are your child's world. You are your child's universe. And you are the first space, and you are the biggest space that your child actually wants to explore. So my question is, are you creating space for your child to grow and evolve, or are you being the space for the child to explore? This is a question you need to put to yourself. Parenting is not about teaching, it's about you being the model. Now, most people who are educated or probably the literate educated, they believe that parenting is about teaching this, teaching that, teaching this. There are so many things to be taught and there is very less time left. I want my kid to be the best of the all kids. I want my kid to be the model for all the kids to emulate. The problem is you are looking from the productivity side, and parenting is not about productivity. It's actually the game of patience. And as long as you are treating your child like a product and you want your child to be the best product in the world, you are telling the child that I'm looking at you from the materialistic point of view. I'm looking at you in comparison with the world. I'm looking at you in comparison with the insecurities in the circumstances in the life. And I'm looking at, I want to teach you this, I want to teach you that. The thing is, you need to understand that you are the model for the child. And since you are the universe, the child wants you to be someone who the child can emulate, and that probably is the best teaching. And if you think that the child is listening to you when you're speaking and you're teaching and everything, then probably you need to understand child doesn't understand your language, and your vocabulary, your education, your understanding, your wisdom, your knowledge took years to come to this position where you are today. And if you want your little kid to understand what you're teaching, then probably it's going beyond their capacity even to assimilate what you're speaking. And hence the child is just staring at you, the child is just observing you, and the child is absorbing your impatience, the child is absorbing your frustration, the child is absorbing your haste in expecting a grown-up out of the child. And when you're doing that, please understand, are you that model? Are you that person that your child can look up to really? Are you that kind of person who your child actually wants to live the life that you have lived? Or do you really want your child to grow up with the kind of mindset that you have developed or you have not yet developed? Would you want your child to be like you? And if you feel that, then probably you are expecting too much, because the child has come here absolutely not to be like you. The child has come here to express who the child itself is. And the most interesting of all, people talk about independence. For God's sake, it's been years that the entire world has realized that parenting is not training about independence. Parenting is training about interdependence. And as long as you don't teach your child that this is an interdependent life, this is an interdependent world, this is an interdependent universe, you are actually misguiding in the name of independence. And as long as you are training the child to be self-dependent and self-reliant and everything that has to do with self, then probably you are misleading the child into being alone, and you are preparing them for loneliness. You are preparing them for something that the world is not actually. There is a lot of love in this world. There is a lot many good people in this world. There is a lot much of good space left to explore. And the best of the thing is preparing your child to become interdependent. And this can only be possible when you start living an interdependent life, when you give a right context for your child to absorb and to understand that this is exactly what life is all about. And you know that in reality that no person, no entity, no element of this life is independent. Everything is growing together, everything is evolving together, and everything is so knit together that we are growing together as a fabric of this universe. And hence, probably independence is the biggest myth that you might have been entangled yourself in. Then probably it's your problem, it's not the child's problem. And parenting is not about training for independence, parenting is all about training for interdependence. And finally, parenting is not about thoughts and strategies. Parenting is all about love, and parenting is all about feelings. As long as you understand the child, as long as you let your child understand you, as long as you let the child feel that bondage, as long as you make your child feel that connection that you have with the child, I'm sure the child is not going to be misled. I'm sure you're going to have the best of the exploration of life when it comes to the connection between you and your child. And your child is going to love you irrespective of what kind of life you have led. And your child wants love and that feeling of connection more than what you teach your child. And I'm not saying that everything else is not required from the social point of view. I'm just saying that love and feeling is the foundation based on which everything else has to be erected. You can't be obsessed so much about planning that you actually lose touch with the feeling of bondage. And finally, that's why parenting is not about regimentation. Parenting is all about patience. Parenting is not about teaching. It's about learning. And parenting is not about imposing. It's about listening. Start listening to your child. Love you.